Alright, YouTube, I normally wouldn't make a second video so close after the one that I just made, but this is actually much, much more important. This is a potentially grave situation. There is a whistleblower right now who did a podcast a couple days ago and just hit a larger media source, which is how I found out about it. And he's an intelligence analyst, so he's worked with the government before. And he was actually a whistleblower back in the Bush era, talking about the surveillance system and how it was being used. And he was substantiated when he came out with his claims before. Of course, Bush claimed, "Well, we're just we're just doing it a little bit," which in all likelihood was a lie. But anyway, back to the main point. This man's name, and let me actually pull up the story, is Russ Tice, and he's claiming that the NSA, while Barack Obama was still a senator when he was aspiring to greater things, but he was still actually just in the Senate, was spying on him. That they were spying on and wiretapping and monitoring senators and congressmen, people in the House and Senate, federal judges, groups of lawyers, all sorts of people, and targeting a bunch of numbers associated with Obama. If this is true, and if it's substantiated in any way, it is the most important story since Watergate, for several reasons. Number one, it means that they were not just surveilling, I mean, we know they're surveilling the population, but that they were actually surveilling the government as well. Number two, wouldn't this lend itself well to blackmail? We would have, if this is actually true, if it can be substantiated, we would have to assume that potentially the entire government is compromised. It's hard to even react to such a story. If this story is true, and he's already been credible before in his whistleblowing, if it's credible, then there is a big problem here. Potentially the hijacking of the entire government, which would, and it almost makes sense, it would explain a lot about how the surveillance state has increased so massively lately, about how government corruption has seemingly expanded so drastically. It would explain a lot about that. It would make sense. It would make sense of the sort of laws that have been passed since that period began. It's very, very concerning. To those who watch this video, I would encourage you, I'll put links in the description to the story on the Blaze and also to the video, the audio on video of the whistleblower himself talking. I would encourage you to spread it around. It just barely, after 2 days of just being the podcast audio, just hit a larger source, and so it's still relatively new to most people who would have viewed it. But if it's spread around, it could potentially hit the mainstream media. People can start asking questions and talking to this guy and saying, does he have any more actual solid evidence that what he's saying is the case? Just very, very concerning in every possible sense of the word. There's just no other way to put it. So keeping it simple, spread it around a bit. Take a look at the audio. If this is true, it's